4 centuries ago, in a serene land at the heart of Europe, something bloomed that would forever change not just a nation, but the history of economics: the tulip. This man, the Dutch ambassador to the Ottoman court, was the first to bring tulip bulbs from Istanbul to Amsterdam, unaware of the storm that lay ahead. In the gardens of Leiden University, Charles Clusius, a renowned botanist and physician, examines this curious flower, one that had never before grown in European soil. He carefully holds the tulip bulb in his hand. Perhaps he alone understood that the true value of this flower lay not in its price, but in its beauty and nature's mystery. The ambassador and Clusius stroll through the garden. One speaks proudly of a new discovery, while the other is deeply engrossed in breeding and propagating tulips. Each new variety discovered was meticulously recorded in Clusius's journal. Here, the tulip was not yet a commodity. It was a scientific endeavor, driven by a passion for research. Yet the ambassador, having viewed his eastern travels through the eyes of merchants, listens to Clusius and begins to form other plans in his mind. Gradually, tulips ventured beyond the confines of academic gardens and spread through the affluent streets of Amsterdam. Their beauty captivated every passerby. Strolling amidst tulips became a symbol of status. People wondered, should I also possess a tulip? Artists, enamored by the colors, filled their canvases with tulips, and with each painting, the flower's price soared. But Clusius continued his beloved work, bent over the soil, eyes on the leaves, mind immersed in nature. Names of tulips began appearing on paper, in trade ledgers. Investors eyed not the flower, but the potential profit it represented. Tulips became the favored subject of artists. Yet art was no longer solely for beauty. It became a promotional tool for a bustling market. Frames turned golden, flowers more lustrous, and prices more fanciful. What was once merely a flower had become a dream with a price tag. 3 men, 3 paths. Clusius, the scientist, the astute ambassador, and the prophet, seeking merchant. Each had a story to tell, but history would record only one. The grandeur of the Netherlands was at its peak. Gardens, fountains, new homes. But beneath this beauty, the tulip fever burned hotter than ever. Markets overflowed with tulips, not for admiration, but for haggling, trading, and gambling on the future. The market became a battleground. People moved like waves, chasing flowers that had yet to bloom. Paper contracts replaced actual flowers. Tulips were no longer in gardens. They were traded on sheets of promises. Doubt and hesitation etched the faces of buyers. Does it still hold value? Or have we been slower to fear than others? Clusius, calm yet concerned, walks through the market. This was no longer a place for science. It was a haven for greed. The ambassador, now an influential figure among brokers, had brought tulips with love, but now traded them for profit. Voices rose. One shouted to buy, another to sell. The market teetered on the brink of disaster. The city remained beautiful, but within its splendor, the scent of an impending collapse lingered. The auction hall. Men sat in silence. On the tables lay bulbs that once traded for houses. Semper Augustus, the most beautiful and valuable tulip in the world. Perhaps today it would set another record. The buyer's eyes were filled with anxiety. Should he bid or wait? The hall was engulfed in a heavy silence, a silence that smelled of danger. And suddenly, no one bid, no one bought. This was the beginning of the fall. Chaos ensued. Shouts, disorder. There were no buyers. A frantic seller exclaimed, "Take the flowers, just give me my money." A lone bulb remained on the table. A tulip that once crowned glory had now become a relic of downfall. Coins held no value anymore. Deals built on air had crumbled. Clusius entered the hall calmly. With a bitter gaze, he observed the outcome of what was once sacred to him. Petals, symbols of pride, lay scattered on the ground, and the hall, in silence, embraced the end. Tulips returned to nature, where they belonged, not on price lists. And the forgotten books reopened. Science would not lose its place. Early paintings of flowers now stood as historical records, testaments to how beauty fell victim to greed. Clusius sat once more in his study, not to breed flowers, but to reshape our perspective. He wrote, "The tulip was beautiful, but mankind can sometimes be more dangerous than anything else." His library was filled with mementos, a place where flowers were neither traded nor idolized, only understood. He closed his book. Perhaps the world had changed, but the truth remained alive within its pages. Clusius stood, amidst flowers that still bloomed, but this time with a hope that was no longer naive. So, if you've stayed with me this far, blossomed with the tulips, and maybe even burst with them now, it's time to pull out a few real lessons from this incredible, but totally true, story. Lesson 1. Just because it's beautiful doesn't mean it's worth a fortune. Yes, tulips are stunning, no argument there. But trading a tulip bulb for a mansion by the Amsterdam canals? That's not elegance, my friends. That's economic madness with petals. Lesson 2. When everyone's buying something, maybe it's time to pause. In the tulip days, everyone from doctors to painters to the local baker was diving headfirst into the market. They all thought tulips would make them rich overnight. But hey, markets are just like flowers. They bloom, but they also wither. Lesson 3. Selling the future doesn't make it any more real. People were trading tulip bulbs that hadn't even been planted yet. Imagine selling the idea of a future flower based on someone's imagination. It's gonna be gorgeous, trust me. Sound familiar? Yeah, because modern markets haven't changed that much. From overhyped tech stocks to crypto, we still fall for imaginary futures. And the final lesson: no market rises forever. No investment is risk-free. Whether it's tulips, stocks, or NFTs, what goes up can and will come down. One night in 1637, the market simply stopped. Nobody wanted to buy tulips anymore. That silence? That was the sound of a bubble popping, loud and clear. So what's left behind? A lesson. A reminder that greed can hide even in the most beautiful things. That when prices rise without reason, they often fall without warning. And maybe, just maybe, sometimes it's better to simply stop and smell the tulips than try to get rich off them. Thanks for sticking around. If you enjoyed the story, leave me a comment. And remember, think twice, especially when everyone else isn't thinking at all. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay updated.